Hi, my name is the Last Goth Unicorn, and today I wanted to talk to you about Wuthering Heights, one of my favorite books. And I specifically wanted to talk about this because I want to compare it to the new Emerald Fennell movie that's coming out. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about the Emerald Fennell movie and specifically the press tour. I don't know anything about it. Interviews make me want to vomit, they make me so uncomfortable. So I'm instead just going to talk about the book. I have a few things that I'm going to read in here, but I just wanted to go over what the book is about because it is definitely a story about class and race, and there's a lot of little intricacies in there. And I mean, it's a love story, but it is like kind of secondarily a love story, you know? Like it's kind of what you would do to betray love kind of story. So I'm gonna give this a good try, and I'm gonna do this using a bunch of different little papers and stuff. And I'm gonna do like a tree over here to try to explain it because there's a lot of characters with a lot of similar names. So let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna start the story with Father Earnshaw. So Father Earnshaw is our starting character. We're going to put him up here. And he is the father of Hindley, who is his oldest son. And then we have Catherine, okay, so we're starting here because, actually, there's two other characters. I'm going to put them way over here where you can still see them, but they won't really interact with the board at all. Okay. So this is our starting character spread. And we start our story with a man named Mr. Lockwood. Okay? Mr. Lockwood is this, I think he's a writer. I don't really remember what he's doing, but he is renting the house of Thuracross Grange in the moors of England, and he is basically doing it to be left alone for quite some time. And he actually bumps into an old guy named Heathcliff, but we won't get to him yet. Other than the fact that he is deeply unpleasant. And everybody in the house of Wuthering Heights is deeply unpleasant. But he's renting out Thuracross Grange, which is another smaller building a little ways away. So when Mr. Lockwood gets there, there is a maid named Nellie, and she is an older woman, and he sees her and says, you know, I bet she'd gossip with me about old Heathcliff. And she does immediately. So the entire story is told from the perspective of Nellie and things she heard happening throughout the homes of the Earnshaws, since she has been employed with them since she was like very, very young, like a teenager, I think it's implied. So Nellie is our narrator for the entire story, and Heathcliff is the person receiving the story. But primarily the story is about the Earnshaw and Linton families, but we're not to the Lintons yet. So we'll start with the Earnshaws. And we have Father Earnshaw. I think he has a name. I don't remember it. It's not very important. He is not on page a lot. But Father Earnshaw has two kids named Hindley and Catherine, and he is I believe he's a merchant, and he is going into town to do some merchanty stuff, and he says, hey kids, tell me something you want from town, very Beauty and the Beast style. And they request, I don't remember what they request. I think they request like a musical instrument and something else. Don't remember what Catherine asks for. So they go, or he goes, and he leaves town, and when he comes back, he has been beaten up. He does not have either of their gifts, but he has a little boy with him who he names Heathcliff. Now, from the second that Heathcliff is introduced on page, they make it very clear that Heathcliff is not white. Like, it is one of the first things that's talked about him, is that he, in fact, is not pale. Like, and that immediately makes everyone not like him very much. Hindley is a good boy in a way. He's very quiet. He's kind of a douchebag, but for the most part, he's very quiet. He is very he's not shaking the boat a whole lot. Catherine and Heathcliff are like very rambunctious and very mean and very ill at heart. And they get along fantastically. At first, these two hate Heathcliff, but after a while, Catherine and Heathcliff start getting along, like, really, really well. And they spend a lot of their times exploring the moors together as they grow up. They do it so much that even after after Hindley leaves to go and do his own thing, we'll move him over here for now. Hindley leaves and goes to do his own thing for a while, get married, maybe. Like right as he turns 18, because he hates how much their father, Mr. Father Earnshaw, really likes Heathcliff. So they love to play in the moors, and one of the things that they decide to do is go to the house of Thurcross Grange and visit or kind of stalk the people living there, kind of like creep around their property. And they do this, and Catherine is attacked by a dog. And this is kind of the event that spurs a change in Catherine. But Heathcliff stays the same. So Catherine gets attacked by a dog, and she gets nursed back to health in the house of the people who own Thurcross Grange, who are the Lintons. And now I'm going to introduce a couple more characters to the board. So here are some new characters introduced. This is Isabella and Edgar Linton. They are the two children of the Linton family who are living in Thurcross Grange at this point in time. And they are about the same age as Catherine and Heathcliff. So they all, I think Isabella is said to be a little bit younger, which is like younger sisters, am I right? Catherine is nursed back to health and spends a lot of time with these two. And when she comes home, she is no longer that awful, mean, like, cruel girl that she used to be. Or she is a little bit, but she's a lot more tame about it. And she starts pondering the idea of marrying Edgar. And I'm going to read a part of the book now that is a part where she is speaking to Nellie about the distress she feels about the concept of Heathcliff or Edgar, because it is very apparent to Nellie that Catherine and Heathcliff have, like, some romance going on. And she says this, and this is classic romance drama where, like, one person is saying something that's being misunderstood while the other person is sitting behind the wall, except for what Catherine is saying is only mildly being misunderstood. So Catherine says, "It would degrade me to marry Heathcliff now, so he shall never know how I love him. And that not because he's handsome, Nellie, but because he's more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. And Linton's is different as a moonbeam from lightning, or frost from fire." And so this is her explanation as to why she can't marry Heathcliff. And the part about it being degrading to her has to do with the fact that he is, frankly, a nasty, mean man, but also the fact that he is very poor because of the way that Hindley, who has now taken over the house, because Father Earnshaw has died, Hindley now owns the house of Wuthering Heights, and he hates Heathcliff to death, and so he makes Heathcliff do all of the shitty work. Like, quite literally, he works in the stables. And Catherine sees it as below herself to marry Heathcliff because she does come from a like well-to-do family. So in light of this, Edgar and Catherine get married. I'm gonna put a little pink tab between them because they got married. They got married. Oh shit. Yay, marriage! So Catherine and Heathcliff, Catherine and Heathcliff, he literally hears her saying this and leaves like the next day, and so they get married. And Heathcliff is gone for a very long time, and it is something that just like tears Catherine apart. I think he's gone for several years. And when he comes back and visits Catherine very briefly at Thuracross Grange, and then he's like, "Oh, I actually have things to attend to up at Wuthering Heights." And everyone's like, "Huh?" And he goes up to Wuthering Heights, and he lives at Wuthering Heights with Hindley, who hates him. But at this point, Hindley has kind of started going crazy. Him with his son, who I will be introducing now. Hindley's son is Hareton. And I'm just going to put him down here for now. You'll see why in a bit. So Hareton is Hindley's son, and he is, at this point, I think he's a young man, but Heathcliff has been kind of worming his way into the household and is kind of turning Hareton into a nasty little boy. And that's fine. That's all well and good, because not long after Heathcliff comes back and he starts visiting the Grange again, Edgar does not like Heathcliff, by the way. Edgar knows that there was something here, and he is not a huge fan of Heathcliff. He also just thinks he's a nasty man, because he is. And Isabella is Edgar's sister. She kind of starts getting a little crush on Heathcliff. And it is really funny because there's a whole part where Catherine like yells at Isabella and is like, you don't fucking want Heathcliff. Like, he is a nasty, horrible man. Like, you don't want him. And she's like, don't tell me what I want. And I think that's very iconic of her as a teen girl. And anyway, they end up running off together and getting married. And they have a good 2 months together, I think, before Isabella writes Nellie a lovely little note that I'm going to read to you in just a moment after I put a little tab between them. Marriage. They get married and are married for approximately 2 months before our good friend Isabella sends a letter to our good friend Nellie, who, by the way, Nellie, I'm not doing justice to the story. If you want to read it, you should still read it, because Nellie is so fucking funny throughout the entire thing. But Isabella writes a letter to Nellie, and this letter contains 2 questions. The first question is essentially, how did you remain sane living in Wuthering Heights? The second question, I have great interest in, it is this. Is Mr. Heathcliff a man? If so, is he mad? And if not, is he a devil? I shan't tell you my reasons for making this inquiry, but I beseech thee to explain, if you can, what I have married. That is, when you call to see me, and you must call, Ellen, very soon. Don't write, but come, and bring me something of Edgar. This is her begging Nellie to come and see her because she thinks that Heathcliff is a fucking monster. And I don't blame her. Later on, we get a scene of them together at home, and they are just like screaming at each other. Definitely one of those people who you're like, ooh, I don't want to go to their Christmas party. But anyway, they get married, and during this time, Catherine kind of gets really sick. Or, yes, when they get married, Catherine has been sick, but she is slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And she is like withering, and she's not eating enough, and she's kind of going mad, and like everybody is like worried about her, and like Heathcliff visits her, and she curses him. Kind of. She basically says that if he that he has done her wrong and that she is going to haunt him. And so then she has a daughter. And 2 hours after she has that daughter, she dies. But first, let's add her daughter to the board. Okay, so they have a daughter, and they name her Kathy because Edgar is so listless after Catherine's death. And you know who else is listless after Catherine's death? Heathcliff. After Catherine dies and the child is born, Nellie basically is relegated to being mother to this child because Edgar Linton, is just listless and he's not doing anything, and Heathcliff has been like stalking around their home trying to get in to see Catherine's corpse because this was a time period when you would like display people in your home for a while. And there is this scene which is one of my favorites in the entire book, so it's going to be a little bit longer, but this is about Heathcliff. I held no communication with him. Still, I was conscious of his design to enter, if he could, and on the Tuesday, a little after dark, when my master from sheer fatigue had been compelled to retire a couple of hours, I went and opened one of the windows, moved by his perseverance to give him a chance of bestowing on the fading image of his idol one final adieu. He did not omit to avail himself to the opportunity, cautiously and briefly, too cautiously to betray his presence by the slightest noise. Indeed, I shouldn't have discovered that he had been there, except for the disarrangement of the drapery around the corpse's face, and for observing on the floor a curl of light hair fastened with a silver thread, which, on examination, I ascertained to have been taken from the locket hung around Catherine's neck. Heathcliff had opened the trinket and cast out its contents, replacing them by a black lock of his own hair. I twisted the two and enclosed them together. And that is my favorite scene in the whole book because I think that that is the perfect interpretation of, like how Catherine loved both Heathcliff and Edgar in like very different ways, but she did still love them. And obviously we now have Kathy. From this situation over here, let's move over to Heathcliff and Isabella for a bit. Isabella runs away and lives somewhere else entirely because Heathcliff is that bad. And during this time, she is pregnant, and so she does, in fact, have a child. And we're just gonna do this again, baby. Now, this guy's name is Linton. Yeah, so you can see how the names might get a little confusing now with the next generation popping in. So this this is hard to explain. There is a lot of time period where it is mostly about how Hindley is going crazy, right? Like, I'll put Hindley back over here, because I need to put his little sun piece. But Hindley is, like, kind of fucking losing it. He's going a little crazy. He's getting old as fuck. He's old and he's mean. And during this time, Hareton is being influenced by Heathcliff, who is also living in the Wuthering Heights with him. And Edgar is becoming listless because Catherine is now dead. And he is just like not taking care of their daughter. Like, that is mostly being done by the housemaids and stuff like that. And she is growing up. She is 16. She's very adventurous. She's a lot like her mom, except for much, much nicer. And she also loves reading, I think. But basically, she just like goes out and she likes to explore the moors. And Edgar does not want her to go too far because he doesn't want her to have any interaction with Heathcliff. Like, he is desperate to keep Heathcliff away from her. So when Isabella falls sick and Edgar goes to help her out in her last days, she basically bestows Linton upon Edgar. And when she dies, because she also dies, Linton comes to live with Edgar. Now, that's okay for about a day, because immediately after he arrives, Heathcliff sends a letter and says, "Bring me my son." And Edgar does, or I guess Nellie does. Nellie takes Linton over to the Wuthering Heights, and Kathy and Linton have a brief moment where they get to know each other and they are enamored by the idea of each other. And so Kathy, being adventurous, obviously starts trying to go over to Wuthering Heights when she discovers that that is where Linton is. And from there, Heathcliff figures out that these two are interested in each other, and despite the fact that he is poisoning Linton into being a nasty little man, because that is what Heathcliff loves to do, is make other nasty little men, he wants Kathy and Linton to get married because he wants to own both Thurocross Grange and Wuthering Heights. And spoiler alert, if you read the start of this book, it works. So these two get married. And not long after they're married, does Linton die, because he is a sickly, weak little man. I have nothing more to say on it. Linton was a nasty little man, and I thought he was very silly sometimes, and sometimes I really hated his guts. But now, Kathy is living in Wuthering Heights. Oh, at this point, Hindley has died, also. Hindley dies really briefly, kind of off screen. And the house goes to Heathcliff, and Hareton and Kathy are both living underneath Heathcliff at Wuthering Heights, while Edgar is currently living alone in Thurocross Grange. And then right after the wedding, Edgar dies. And it is before he is able to change his will so that the house won't immediately go to Kathy. And so the house immediately goes to Kathy, which immediately goes to Linton, which immediately goes to Heathcliff. So Heathcliff gets everything he wants, and he owns both houses of Wuthering Heights and Thurocross Grange, except for that is nothing that he wanted. Ever. And he has to live with that. And so basically everybody in this house is very, very hateful and mean towards each other. And this would be the time period when Mr. Lockwood first came to Wuthering Heights. And then he ends up leaving for a little bit. He gets like an opportunity in London or something, and he's like, oh, I'll be back. And he comes back and he bumps into Nellie, or he goes back to Thurocross Grange, and Nellie is not there, and so he goes, and he's like, oh, I'll go visit up at Wuthering Heights. And he heads up to Wuthering Heights, and Nellie is there, and she's like, oh, everything's so beautiful now. Come and listen to my story. Heathcliff started going crazy. He started wandering around the house, and I mean, he's kind of crazy at the start of the story, when you hear him, like, crying for the ghost of Catherine. But Heathcliff, he just kind of starts losing it more and more, and he is super mean to Kathy and Hareton, and that somehow starts kind of pushing them together, and they end up finding that they quite enjoy each other's company. And there's this moment later on in the story where Heathcliff comes home and sees them sitting together, even though he had like forbidden them from seeing each other, despite the fact that they're both living in the same house. And they're like sitting on the couch, and Kathy's like teaching Hareton how to read, and he looks at them, and there's like a glimmer in his eye that I can only assume means he is seeing himself and Catherine in Hareton and Kathy, and he leaves them be, and he goes upstairs, and he just kind of becomes more calm in his old age. And then when he does finally die, he is buried next to Catherine, who is also buried next to Edgar. So they're kind of buried in this really weird, bizarre triple couple, like a polycule grave almost, but like nothing like that at all. But yeah, it's a really interesting story, and I think that it's really beautiful. I'm really excited to see the movie because I personally liked Saltburn a lot. I thought it was a very visually striking film. I don't think the movie is going to be a good interpretation of the text, because everything I just explained to you is complicated and it is beautifully written, if you can tell from the few passages I read. So I'm excited to see what the movie has in store for me. And this will be a really fun experimentation into this kind of setup for myself. So thank you so much for being here. I will see you in a couple of minutes after I watch Wuthering Heights. So I just got back from seeing Wuthering Heights. Technically I didn't just get back from it. I got back from it last night, but it kept me up all night, and I really had to think about it at 4 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. So I gave it as a movie. As a movie, I would give the Wuthering Heights film a 7 out of 10, but that is given that I liked Saltburn, and I think that Emerald Fennell's movies are just kind of dumb fun. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to give it a 2 for accuracy to the book, and the 2 is straight up for every single quote that they just straight up stripped from the book and put into the movie. What can I say about this movie other than the 2 things that I thought would happen did happen? The first and foremost is that I thought that it would just be the first half of the book, aka the story of Heathcliff and Catherine, and it wouldn't get into Kathy and Linton at all, which was accurate. And also, I didn't think... I was scared of this when I saw that Jacob Elordi was going to be playing Heathcliff. Heathcliff redemption arc, but when he's a white guy. Does that not rub anybody else, like, in a weird way? Yeah, that's, like, the main issue I had with this, is that a lot of the movie just kind of made itself out to be a Heathcliff redemption arc, and the fact that they decided to make Heathcliff a white man and Edgar a not white man, really rubbed me the wrong way, just in regards to the fact that I knew that they were going to do a redemption arc. What else can I say about it? I fucking love what they did with Isabella, unfortunately. I thought it was fucking awesome. I thought it was fantastic that she was into the weird, crazy sex shit. Anyway, shout out Autistic Girl Rep. Autistic Doll Girl Rep at that. I did also have a problem with how villainized Nellie became, due to them deciding to make her an Asian woman and then also to so deeply villainize her. Like she wasn't the one facilitating the relationship between Catherine and Heathcliff in the book. So that just rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, yeah, so my review of the Wuthering Heights movie was that if you want to go and watch a movie for some good, dumb fun, go watch the Wuthering Heights movie. There is a sex montage. I will warn you, don't take your mom to it, for sure. I also wouldn't recommend taking a date to it. I went with my best friend, and we probably looked like we were on a date because it was the day after Valentine's Day. But we went and saw it, and we had some good fun. There's some definitely crazy sex scenes. There's a lot of licking. If you don't want anything to do with that, there's egg fingering, like a little bit. So if you don't want to put up with that, if you don't want to think about that, then don't watch this movie. If you don't want to watch something that is deeply inaccurate to the book, don't watch this movie. If you don't want to watch something that is so forgiving of both Heathcliff and Catherine's actions and blames most of the plot error on Nellie, don't watch this movie. Yeah, that's about all I can say about the review. I wish that it was crazier, honestly. I was looking for Saltburn levels of insanity. And I mean, I guess he does lick the wall at some point. It was a weird movie. It was definitely a weird one. If you want to see something just absolutely kind of off the fucking walls, bizarre, especially as an interpretation of a very uptight, put together novel, I would go for it, honestly. It wasn't a bad movie. The production, the set designs were really interesting. The outfits were really fun. Um, I there were many times that my friend and I were discussing it and we were like, "Oh, I think this part or this specific setup for this scene was like inspired by a very specific painting." And we discussed that like multiple times. So, there is a lot of really fascinating visuals inside this movie. And if you are a person who likes visuals and a person who likes set design and costume designing, I would give Wuthering Heights a try. I actually think it was quite fun. And I don't think you should hate watch it because I don't believe in hate watching, but I think that there is enough to this movie that you could enjoy it as long as you are not a prude. And that's what I have to say. I don't think that they should have redeemed Heathcliff after making him a white man. I think that they probably should have not made him a white man and gave him the redemption arc if they were going to do that. But I think what they chose instead to make him a white guy and give him a redemption arc. And then I will say, and I will give them this, is that Edgar didn't get a character assassination the way that I feel that Nellie did. Also, the starting scene when you are in the credits, it is not what you think it is. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Oh yeah, I will say, a lot of death, concept of hanging is very present within this film. Oh yeah, and also they just entirely cut out Hindley. Like, he does not exist in this movie at all. And also I feel like they kind of dodged the incest allegations from the book in the movie. So, take what you will from that. That's all I've got. I don't really want to get into it because I do genuinely enjoy it as a movie, and I don't want to super spoil it because I enjoy it as a movie. So I think that if you are interested, you should go give it a watch. If you aren't interested, don't bother. It's probably not for you. If you liked Saltburn and you're kind of on the fence, give it a try. Give it a try. It's interesting. It's no Saltburn, but it's interesting. Yeah, so that is genuinely going to be it for me because I wanted to be able to say more and talk about like how bad it was, but it wasn't a bad movie. Like, it just flat out, it was a perfectly fine movie. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was particularly like good. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10, which is higher mid ranking for me. Yeah, I was like, there's no point where I was bored. There were several times where my friend was like gasping over himself because of these strange things happening in the movie. So yeah, it was pretty fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here and you value my opinions on this book and this movie, thanks for watching. Thanks for sitting around for probably 30 to 40-ish minutes just to hear that I liked the movie and that I think you should give it a try. Thank you so much for being here, and I will hopefully see you around soon.